Welcome one and all, Tim Thiesen Live. It's great to be back. Tim Thiesen Live show took a 2-week break over the holidays and spent time with family and just getting caught up and had a great holiday, and I hope you had the same. Also, we have a really great show lined up for you today. We have Jody Winter from Lloyd Winter Law Group in with us today, talking about mediation, arbitration, and depending how much time we have, how deep we're going to go with that. We have Michael Choi from California Grazers is going to be in here, a new concept into brush control in sensitive areas that are fire prone. And we're also going to be talking to Tim Rosales from the Wayne Johnson Agency regarding ethnic voter blocks and the impacts and what's happening here, especially in California, as diverse as we are. And then also Carolyn Wade is going to be in here. And she's in the pastry business, and she's also an artist, so we have a really, really great show lined up for you today. This show is all about hope, growth, and prosperity. Any direction our government takes us other than that is always the wrong direction, and knowledge is what empowers us to make great decisions every day of our life. This show today is brought to you by the National Federation of Independent Business, the Voice of Small Business, Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse, and www.timthiesen.com for all your real estate needs in the Central Valley. Without further ado, we're going to go to my first guest, Jody Winter. Jody, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Jody is a local attorney here in Fresno. He is a repeat guest on this program because he is an excellent attorney and he's an excellent guest, I might add. And also, over the holidays on the 12th, you had a little addition to your family, so we're going to let you brag on your new baby for just a little bit.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Eden Luann Winter was born to my wife Michelle and I on 12/12/12. So we're happy to have her, and she's a joy to our family. She's our second child.
Okay, congratulations, and baby's doing well.
Baby's doing well.
Mom's doing well.
That's correct.
Okay, anybody getting any sleep yet at your house?
Well, my wife's taking the brunt of it. She's a trooper.
Okay, very good. So congratulations to that. We celebrate. One of the things we all celebrate on this show is the family.
Thank you.
So thank you for stepping up and being a proud dad and going on. And those kids are our future all the way around, our kids and our grandkids.
Yes, sir.
Okay, a lot of things come up in the legal world. We do a lot of stuff revolving law related here on this program, real estate and other areas of law. Something that really gets confusing for a lot of people is mediation, arbitration, which are steps in lieu of filing lawsuits. And so let's just launch, Jody, and talk about mediation, what it entails, and then go from there.
Sure. Well, mediation is as a definition is using a neutral third party in an effort to go between the parties and their counsel in an effort to resolve the conflict. So what you're doing is you're using a quote-unquote mediator, and you're sitting down and using that third party to try and resolve the conflict. In this case, in civil litigation, we've got a lawsuit usually that's already been filed before we enter into a mediation, and they sit down, usually at the same office, and resolve the conflict with that third party.
And this is, I went through it as a result of a car accident several years ago, and we were actually successful in that. Why is mediation becoming so popular?
Well, mediation is becoming so popular mainly, Tim, because it's very effective. It works. If you can get a knowledgeable mediator in the room, and the counsel that have been representing the parties have done their job, then they have a good handle on the risks of the case and can tell their client what the risks are and what the range of settlements would be. And the mediator will also usually chime in and tell you what the range of settlement should be and give you a good idea of where the case should settle. And then the parties agree to a settlement agreement at that time. So that's why mediation is popular, because it works. In addition, the legal system is not necessarily set up to resolve conflict. In the end of a litigation, one party's really somewhat happy and the other party is not happy at all. And so in this case, what we can do is have both parties come to some sort of resolution that they're both agreeable to, and both parties can actually be happy at the same time.
In addition to also is just the reduce of the court costs and court times.
That's exactly right. So usually what you're doing in a mediation is you're cutting off extended or protracted litigation in favor of coming to a resolution, making a business decision of how that case is going to resolve based on the risks and the facts of the case.
Okay. The if mediation doesn't work, you have another Cam. If we can open the camera up here, if we can, you also have arbitration, and the two continually get confused.
Yes,
and we'll go into some real estate stuff that revolves around
exactly.
that too.
It's really easy to confuse the two, but mediation is a collaborative process, like I was talking about earlier, where we're going to sit down, usually at one of the attorney's offices, and the parties will use a mediator to go back and forth between the parties, negotiate based on the risk of the parties. So there's no trial, there's no hearing. It's not really about exactly determining what the facts are or having a finder of fact like a jury or a judge or an arbitrator. Mm-hmm. So an arbitration does have that. You have a hearing, you have findings of facts, you put on evidence, and it acts like a mini trial. And in that case, I generally don't recommend arbitration because for my clients, I feel it's as expensive as going through litigation. It doesn't necessarily save that much money unless you can set it up in a way where you're guaranteed to save the money, meaning you're going to stipulate to some of the facts, which you could already do in litigation. You're going to limit the time of the arbitration, which the court's already going to ask you to do in litigation anyway. So comparing the two, the mediation is a very collaborative process, sitting down in an office, negotiating based on the facts and that you've discovered and the relative risks of the parties. Arbitration, much more like an actual litigation. You've got a hearing, you've got findings of fact, etc.
Yeah, and in real estate law, the part of the contract is, in fact, mediation. That is just part of the contract. If there is a dispute or a conflict, the first step is mediation.
That's correct. So the California the car forms,
right.
The Department of Real Estate has those, and in the car forms that are most real estate contracts use these car forms. Mediation is part of that contract, and often there's an arbitration clause that may or may not be selected. And most people know who have bought a home that they had to initial that portion of the contract, because what you're doing is, if you're selecting arbitration, is you're giving up your rights to normal civil litigation in the courthouse, and you're saying, we're not going to do that. We're going to go and we're going to have an arbitration where a third-party arbitrator is going to decide the facts of the case instead of a judge. Mm-hmm. And that's a really big deal, so they want to make sure that in those forms you understand exactly what you're doing when you're signing that right away.
Yeah. For my clients that sit in my office when I'm preparing a contract, I always advise them not to initial their arbitration clause, because mediation is the first step. I mean, that's not negotiable. Secondly, if you do initial that, and a lot of people don't understand this, if you initial the arbitration clause and then the other party initials it, you've both given up your right to sue.
That's exactly right. Well, you're agreeing to arbitrate instead of a lawsuit.
Right.
So, and instead of, and in some cases, that's not necessarily appealable. So what you're doing is saying, we're going to throw out the court system and we're only going to concentrate on arbitration, and whatever the arbitrator decides, we're going to live with. So that's a big step.
It's huge, and I always explain to folks that if the arbitration clause is removed by not initialing it in the contract, if mediation doesn't work, we still have that option. At that point, you can still opt to go to arbitration or move on and proceed with a lawsuit.
That's exactly right.
If you've been harmed.
And I think that's good advice. You know, the possibility of arbitration doesn't necessarily go away because you've got a lawsuit that's happening. You can always go to a third-party arbitrator if you decided that was more beneficial to you, or if your counsel advised it. Generally, I don't recommend third-party arbitration because, like I said earlier, I find it just as expensive as litigation.
Absolutely.
If we're going to litigate the case, we might as well litigate it in court.
That is correct, and you have one person determining your fate and not 12.
Exactly.
And so, anyway, and besides, at that point, it's just more exciting in court anyway, if you can't work it out. Anyway, Jody Winter, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming in today.
I appreciate
this has been a fast 12 minutes here, and we're going to be having you on again soon. So congratulations on that new baby.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And folks, just contact him at the web address on the screen, and we'll go from there. We'll be right back after these messages.